welcome back to the show. We're running it back because the light was really bad the first time around. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about stats. We're talking about the weirdo stats, the Brian Windhorst stats, the Zach Lowe stats. Where do they get these stats? Do they have to pay for them on ESPN.com, or do they get them for free because they work for ESPN? No, they're on NBA.com. You can look at all these weirdo stats that somebody is calculating or a machine is calculating. Maybe they have a machine watch every game and it figures out every type of stat imaginable. I don't know, but we're going to get into these fun stats today. Maybe you can draw some fun conclusions. You can let me know which stats you like to look at, what conclusions you can draw from different types of stat boards. I want to know. I really do. I comment back on every single comment that someone has left on this channel, even the spam. Maybe I shouldn't admit that. It's kind of sad. Let's look at play type. You can look at points by play type, which is a lot of fun. So let's look at transition points. Who scores the most in transition this season? It's Giannis. Giannis Antetokounmpo with 10 points a game. Obviously, when Giannis is barreling down the lane, no one is stopping him. The second is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 7. It's a pretty far discrepancy, but Shai is killing it in transition as well, and I wanted to give him his flowers because he's having a really great season. Also, I apologize if you're watching this in the future. This is still a good video to watch, but this is just where we are right now in December of the 2022-2023 season. Who is the best in isolation? Still James Harden. James Harden is getting 9 points in isolation every game. He's still doing the classic James Harden shit. And so is Luka. Luka is still doing the classic James Harden shit. He's getting about 9 points a game in isolation as well. Who's the best spot up shooter? Who's the best catch and shoot? Even though those are two different things. A spot up is when you're still and you catch and shoot the ball. But who's the best spot up guy? Who's the guy best patiently waiting for the ball to get in his hands and shoot? Take a guess. It's Jeremy Grant this year. Jeremy Grant is scoring 7 points a game in catch and shoot shots. Jeremy Grant, hot right now. Who's the best shooter off a screen? Take a second. Imagine a guy shooting the ball off a screen. A guy coming off a screen, getting the ball and shooting it. It's Klay Thompson, isn't it? Because yes, it is. It is Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is the king of wrapping around a screen and shooting the ball real quick, and he is leading the league this season. You can also look at clutch time stats. Again, I'm going to put a link to all the different type of stats that we're going to go over so you can look at them yourself. Clutch time stats are stats accumulated in the last 5 minutes of the game or overtime. So guys that are going into a lot of overtime games are probably going to be leading this. So who do you think it is this season? It's the Jazz. It's Jordan Clarkson. And then also the Mavs with Dorian Finney-Smith. They've been in a lot of overtime games, and when you think about those guys, you can probably watch the NBA Top 10 and see a lot of buzzer beaters from those two guys. So you can figure out who's clutch. You can also look at clutch rebounds if you think that's important, if you think that's interesting, someone pulling down a rebound at the very end of the game. If you think that's a clutch move, go check that out. Personally, I don't think it's very interesting, but it's there. There's also advanced stats. I also have a video on advanced stats if you want to check that out. I'm going to go into more detail about these advanced stats on that video, but let's look at player impact rating. What is that? What is PI? It's basically a calculation that figures out how much impact a player has on the court. So if it's negative, that means you actually have a negative impact on the court and you're making your team worse. We're not going to talk about those players today because that's negative. That's bad. We don't like to talk about that type of stuff. Leading the league is Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is on top this season because obviously the Mavs are pretty mediocre if he's not on the court. So you probably already guessed that. And usually it's Jokic. That is why Jokic has won the MVP the last 2 seasons, because when you look at his impact rating, it is quite obvious that this guy, when he's on the court, is really the guy that's making the team successful. A lot of people say these advanced stats are what's ruining basketball, but regardless of how you feel, if you're placing a bet on the NBA MVP, take a look at these advanced stats because they're pretty telling on who's going to win the MVP. For whatever reason, I don't know if guys just aren't watching a lot of basketball so they look at these stats and that's who they vote for. I don't know, but that's my gambling tip if you want a gambling tip. One thing I didn't talk about in that video is your turnover percentage or your turnover rating, which is your turnovers divided by your assists. So you want that number to be low. You don't want to have a lot of turnovers and very little assists. So who is leading the league basically on turnovers right now? It is DeAndre Jordan. If you pass DeAndre Jordan the ball, he is 2,000% more likely to turn it over than he is to give you an assist. Not trying to make fun of DeAndre Jordan. He had a great career. He is really good. But to be honest with you, I don't know why he is getting consistent minutes in the league right now. I've done a video on hustle stats before. We're going to go into it a little bit, but if you want to know more about this, I got a video for it and you should check it out. Screen assists. What's a screen assist? A screen assist is not actually an assist. It just means you set a screen and someone got a basket. Who leads the league every season? It's always Rudy Gobert. I've been looking at these stats for a long time and it is always Rudy Gobert, but right now leading the league is Steven Adams. So So you can tell there's a trend. It's big, sturdy dudes that set good screens. I got a feeling Rudy Gobert is going to be the screen assist leader this season. Deflections. This is another hustle stat. Who is deflecting the ball the most? It's basically a block on a pass. It's Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso is leading the league in deflections. I think this is a very telling aspect on who's putting the most effort in on defense, because everyone should be deflecting the ball. Personally, I think DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year, should be calculated by the person who had the most accumulated blocks, steals, and deflections in the league. I think that person deserves Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's a pretty objective metric, but what do you think? You tell me. I think it's good. Maybe you think it sucks. Another hustle stat is balls recovered. Who had the most loose balls recovered? Who is diving on the floor? Who's grabbing those loose balls? Who's really going for those 50-50s and giving their team an extra possession? This season, OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby is putting in work. He's going for the balls. That is why the Toronto Raptors are not at the bottom of the league, because he's putting in the effort. He's hustling a lot. You can also see how well a group of players play together with the lineup stats. Which group of 5 players has the most rebounds? Which group plays the most? Which has played the most games together? Which one has the most minutes together? But which one this year has accumulated the most points thus far in December, on December 9th? It's the Golden State Warriors starting lineup with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, and Kevon Looney. Even though that team's not very good, I guess their defense is kind of bad because they're killing it on offense. Who has the most turnovers? Which lineup has the most turnovers? It's the starting lineup of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Sorry guys, it's Rudy Gobert, D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and not Jalen McDaniels, but Jay McDaniels. I believe it's Jaden McDaniels. This is very unprofessionally for not knowing which Jay McDaniels it is, but those guys are turning over the ball a lot. So that's how I've been using the NBA stats calculators. I've had a lot of fun with it. Maybe you should go check it out, play around with it. Let me know if you find some cool stuff, or if I'm wrong about something. If I just got something wrong, you can tell me, fill me in. I'd happily be corrected. So be good to your mothers.